Okay, a very good evening, all of you. Welcome to our final session of this week. So in this final session, we'll go ahead with image-based discussion from Orthodontics. In specific, we'll deal with removable appliances. In the upcoming sessions, we'll also deal with fixed, functional appliances, etc. So we have some 15 to 20 images, and along with that, I'll be reviewing some very brief, important literature from standard textbooks. And that's the reason why I've given you two options, either to complete the images in 10 to 15 minutes by just identifying them, or we can just dig a bit deeper and then try to explore some additional information relevant to these images, right? So I think majority of you have chosen option 2. So let's go ahead. Also, I see some interaction going on in the comment section. I know you're all smart, right? So if you want more topics in less time, as one of you rightly mentioned, you can go ahead with 2x or 3x speed after the session ends, right? You always have that option. Okay, right. It seems there is some discussion going on related to physiology, hormones. So anyways, let me not disturb you. You guys carry on with your discussion in comment section, and I'll just carry on with my image-based discussion for this session. So I hope you're all doing good. I hope you're all doing fantastic. And it's weekend, right? So what are you planning for weekend? I know this is a very bad question at a very bad time, given the exam, which is approaching in a few weeks from now. But anyways, there are some students who always wish to enjoy their weekends. So if you belong to that category, so what are you actually planning this weekend? Right, so without much delay, let's go ahead with our image-based discussion today, and let's start. So first of all, we started these image-based discussions a couple of sessions prior. So we had discussed some images from periodontics, and today we'll be dealing with removable appliances from orthodontics. And before we start, as I keep on reminding, make sure that you are maintaining customized notes and enjoy the process of learning. If not, what's the point in doing it? And before we start, an update regarding our courses: crash course towards NEET MDS 2022 and Mission 12 batch new schedule, which we're launching this month. So you can find all the details in our website, pdpdacademy.com, or you can just get back to us through mail at proudtobedentist@gmail.com. And let's start our session with this amazing quote. As Stephen Hawking rightly said, however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. So often we talk about so many difficulties in life, so many challenges, and so many problems. And we always, most of us love pointing out fingers. But in reality, we make our own suffering. In fact, as my father was telling me this, like, suffering is always optional. And as he rightly said, yes, suffering is always optional. It's not a mandatory phase which you have to go through. So however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do, you can contribute and succeed at. So with this inspiring quote from Stephen Hawking, let's go ahead with our image-based discussion. So first and foremost, I'll give you a few moments. So try identifying the images as fast as possible. The sooner you identify, the faster we can go ahead with literature review and then move on to the next image accordingly. So identify this illustration. You can see a stainless steel wire which is bent in a particular shape. So what is this all about? Yeah, before we start, Smriti, you need not worry about what's happening in the live comment section. Those who are willing to join us live, those who are willing to pay attention, will do pay attention, right? So you cannot push someone beyond a certain degree, beyond a certain extent. All we can do is inspire, and those who are inspired and motivated will join us and will pay and give 100% attention. Yeah. Anyway, Shruti, I really appreciate your enthusiasm. So identify this particular device. So before we go ahead, as I said, we'll be dealing with removable appliances. And as you know, clasps, this is one of the clasps, as you all rightly identified. C-clasp, circumferential clasp. So clasps form one of the retentive components of removable appliances. So these help in retaining the appliance, hence they are retentive components. Clasps engage the undercut areas, as you're all familiar with. So what you're seeing right here is circumferential clasp or C-clasp. You can make a note of some additional inputs. It's otherwise called as C-clasp or 3/4 clasp. It's made of 0.9 mm diameter stainless steel wire. The clasp uses one proximal undercut, as you can see here, and also it engages the undercut which is on the buccal side, right? Yeah. So the clasp uses one proximal undercut and buccocervical undercut, as you can see in this particular illustration. The design of the clasp is such that the palatal portion of the wire is embedded in acrylic, and the rest of the description, I think it's beyond the purview of this session, not required as such. So as majority of you have rightly opted out, without options, it is circumferential clasp, 3/4 clasp, or C-clasp. So advantages and disadvantages, again, let's not go much into theory. So C-clasp can be modified to engage mesiobuccal undercut, that is this area. So there is a modification as well. Let's move on. Very good. Now let's move on to the next image. So try identifying this clasp. Again, you have another retentive component. You can find that the end portion of this retentive component is in the shape of a spear or ball. So identify this clasp. So what clasp are we talking about? So it is made of 0.7 mm or 21 gauge hard stainless steel wire. The previous C-clasp 0.9 mm. So this particular clasp is 0.7 mm or 21 gauge hard stainless steel wire. You might have used 21 gauge, 23, 25 gauge in your orthodontic postings in your undergraduation. The clasp extends across the embrasure between the adjacent teeth, as you can see here, right? And engages interdental undercuts on buccal surface. The end of the clasp is fabricated in the form of a ball or knob, as you can see in this particular illustration. They are available as ready-made forms. Instead of ready-made ball, the end of the wire can be recurved. Okay, rest of the things, we will not go into that. So this, as you all rightly mentioned, it is ball end clasp, also called as ball clasp. As simple as that. Now, let's move on to the next clasp configuration or design. So try identifying this. You know, again, it's a clasp, a retentive component. So observe the shape of this and try identifying this particular clasp configuration. So it's a clasp with an open end of the clasp facing distally. So this is the open end, which is facing distally. And yeah, the apex engages the proximal undercut, as you can see. So in this particular configuration or shape, the apex is engaging the undercut areas in the proximal surfaces, usually placed between two premolars. The clasp is mainly used for additional retention and is made of 0.7 mm or 21 gauge hard stainless steel wire. So that's the information you have. And as you rightly mentioned, it is in the shape of a triangle. It is triangular clasp. Right? Yeah, very good. I'm glad that you're trying to identify these illustrations as fast as possible. So as you know, given the amount of time we have, try identifying them within 10 to 15 seconds maximum. If you're not able to identify, I'll be reviewing some relevant literature, which I'm sure will give you inputs on identifying these particular illustrations. Very good. So it is triangular clasp. Now, let's move on to the next clasp design. As you can see, we have this peculiar shape. I'm not going to reveal the shape of this, which will reveal the answer. So identify this particular clasp configuration or clasp design. So what do you think this is? So this was introduced by Schwarz, Schwarz. This was introduced by A.M. Schwarz, and it is the oldest clasp made of 0.7 mm diameter. Yeah, Schwarz clasp made of 0.7 mm diameter stainless steel wire. Its fabrication requires special pliers, namely Tischer's pliers, optical pliers, etc. The anterior arm of the clasp emerges from the acrylic plate and crosses through the interdental area between premolar and molar, and rest of the things, posterior arms extend to the last fully erupted tooth, crossing interdental and get inserted in the acrylic plate. So as you can see, these are arrowhead clasp, Schwarz clasp. You can see the arrowheads engaging into the interproximal areas, right? And rest of the thing is a description of this particular class, which I'm sure we can skip. So it was introduced by Schwarz and it is called as arrowhead clasp. Very good. In fact, one of the most versatile clasps is a modification of this arrowhead clasp, which we'll deal with in few moments from now. So try identifying this particular illustration. Again, you can see clearly the stainless steel wire along the gingival margins, and it is passing between the central and lateral on both sides. So which clasp design are we talking about? So this particular clasp extends along the gingival margins of the two teeth, as you can see, and you can see a U-shaped bend between the two teeth interdentally, right? So extends along the gingival margins of two teeth with a small U-loop engaging the interdental area, as you can see here. Wire is adapted along the buccal cervical margins of two teeth. Distal ends cross over the occlusal embrasure or incisal embrasure, as you can see here. Yeah. And are embedded in the acrylic plate. It's used in anterior teeth for retention, as you can see. Adjustment is easier and it is adjusted by pushing the U-loop. Okay, rest of the things, let's keep them aside. So what is this clasp design called? South end clasp, right? Very good. Used for anterior teeth retention. So south end clasp is the right answer. Very good. Keep it up. Now let's move on to the next clasp configuration or clasp design. So identify this clasp design. So in the meantime, let me review some information. It was introduced by a person. If I name that person again, you'll get the answer. So let's keep this person aside. The scientist names are very important because in one of the previous INI-CET entrances, they've asked, there was a matching question on various appliances on one column and the scientist names on the other column. So that's the reason why we're trying to highlight scientist names too. So it was introduced way back in 1906. As you can see, it is U-shaped. And it was introduced by Jackson, called as Jackson's clasp. Very good. Also called as molar clasp or full clasp, right? So the wire is closely adapted to buccocervical undercut, as you can see in this illustration. And both mesial and distal undercuts and the wire crosses interdentally on both sides of first molar to end in acrylic plate. So as you can see, it's engaging the buccocervical undercut as well as both proximal undercuts. This is a U-shaped clasp or Jackson's clasp, also called as a molar clasp or full clasp. Okay, so these are retentive components of your appliance, removable orthodontic appliances. Well done. Now, this is something which I'm sure all of you can identify. And this is something which you have all fabricated at your undergraduate level. And this is considered to be the most versatile. And right, so it's one of the commonly used ones in orthodontics. So identify this clasp. Very good. Very good. Excellent. So Adams clasp or modified arrowhead clasp. It's a most versatile clasp and is a modification of the arrowhead clasp, as we mentioned prior. It was designed by Philip Adams way back in the year 1948. independence, approximately. It makes use of both mesial and distal undercuts, as you can see here. No bucco or cervical undercut is engaged, only the mesial and distal cervical undercuts. And according to Graeber, it is most widely used clasp by orthodontists. It is called by other names such as modified arrowhead clasp or Liverpool clasp or universal clasp. So I'm sure you're familiar with these synonyms. It's made of 0.7 mm diameter hard stainless steel wire in permanent premolars, molars, and deciduous molars, and 0.6 mm for canines. About 7 to 8 centimeters wide is sufficient to actually complete fabricating this particular device, which is considered to be the most versatile, most commonly used by orthodontists, as rightly mentioned by Graeber. And it was introduced by Adams way back in the year, Philip Adams way back in the year 1948. Very good. Well done. Now, excellent. Now let's move on to the next image. Identify this image, identify this clasp design, observe it, appears like an Adams clasp, but look into this particular area, the loop-like structure. So observe that carefully and try identifying this particular clasp design. We have various Greek letters, as you know, and this resembles one of the Greek letters. So that's a hint, that's the only hint which I can give you. So based on that, can you identify this clasp configuration or clasp design? Very good. So in uppercase, delta is written in this fashion. Excellent. So delta clasp. So delta clasp was designed by, not delta, it is named because of this particular shape, but it was designed by William Clark. It's also called circular arrowhead clasp. So it's your Adams clasp with a modification. So you have this circular arrowhead clasp design, hence it's called a circular arrowhead clasp made of 0.7 mm or 21 gauge hard stainless steel wire. So rest of the things, let's keep them aside. The buccal bridge has to be 1 mm away from the buccal surface of the tooth. So this is your buccal bridge. So design specifications and all, if you want, we can share the reference material in your e-classes, okay, for your reference. Very good. It's a delta clasp. Now let's move on to the next component. So we have various springs, spring designs, and these are considered to be active components which have a force arm, we have a helical loop, and then we have a retentive tag which goes into the acrylic or onto the palatal side of the tooth, depending upon the design. So again, springs, these are some of the things which you have already fabricated during your undergraduation. So identify this particular configuration. So first of all, springs, as I said, see, till now we have seen clasps which are retentive components of your removable orthodontic appliance, which helps in retaining the device, retaining the appliance. Now coming to springs, these are active components because these actually deliver force, helps in, these help in correcting minor rotations, labial movements, lingual movements, tipping movements, minor rotations, right? So all of this can be done using these active components. You can see it's engaged to canine, obviously for retracting canine, and it is placed buccally, hence it is buccal canine retractor. Very good, helps in distal and palatal movement of mesial inclined canines. So very good, Arshi. Yeah, springs are active components of removable appliances, and the parts of springs include an active arm. So this will be your active arm, and this will be your coil or helix, and this is your tag which enters into the resin or onto the palatal aspect. And we have different kinds of springs, and let me briefly mention about self-supported springs. So what you're seeing now is also a type of self-supported spring. So self-supported springs are springs that can resist distortion forces on their own, and they're usually having a stability ratio of 1 and are made of either 0.7 mm or 0.9 mm hard stainless steel wire, and various springs such as buccal canine retractor, helical loop canine retractor, U-loop canine retractor, even coffin spring fall under this particular category of self-supported springs, which means these are the springs that can resist distortion forces on their own. And the stability ratio of these self-supported springs is 1. So what is this stability ratio? Can anyone tell me what the stability ratio is all about? It has something to do with the displacement in unwanted direction to displacement in wanted direction. So what is this stability ratio? So if anyone is interested, try finding out and let me know. We'll discuss in next session, or you can get back through mail for key. So as you all rightly said, this is a standard buccal canine retractor, which is used where a buccally placed canine has to be moved both palatally as well as distally. It's fabricated from 0.7 mm stainless steel wire or 21 gauge stainless steel wire. Okay. By the way, is it gauze or is it gauze? So this is something which I cross-checked just before the session. Even Soumya helped me in finding out. So this GAUGE is pronounced as gauge, right? Railway gauges, narrow gauge, broad gauge. Whereas the white cloth-like material which we use in our medical profession for soaking fluids, that is gauze. That's pronounced as gauze, okay? Yeah. Just trivia. So this is a buccal canine retractor, very good. Now try identifying both of these springs. So you can see one on left, one on right, so with different designs. So self-supported springs. So which spring designs are we talking about in this particular illustration? Left as well as right. So you can see the loop seems to be reversed here. So reverse loop, and this is U loop. So let's get back with a literature review. Hi, Manav. The reverse loop canine retractor, this buccal retractor is favored by some practitioners, particularly where the sulcus is shallow, as in case of mandibular arch. It's also called as helical loop canine retractor, helix. And it's made from 0.7 mm or 21 gauge hard stainless steel wire. Now, yes, reverse loop and U loop. In case of U loop, yeah, as you all rightly mentioned, it's indicated only when distal movement of canine is required. And minimal distal movement of canine is achieved with this retractor and is made of 0.7 mm or 21 gauge hard stainless steel wire. So the left one is reverse loop, also called as helical loop canine retractor, and the right one is U-loop canine retractor, only for distal movements. Now, next illustration. So this is again something which I'm sure 100% of the aspirants will answer it accurately, provided they're not made to fall in trap through options, through confusing options. So which spring design are you talking about in this particular illustration? It was introduced by a person. If I name the person again, you'll identify the appliance easily. It is a strong spring which is made of heavy thickness stainless steel wire, that is 1.25 mm stainless steel wire. It is indicated in expansion, slow expansion, as you know, of the maxillary arch, in correction of posterior crossbite in conditions requiring differential expansion. This is not caffeine, it is coffin. Yeah, Walter Coffin is the name of the scientist who discovered or who introduced this appliance for slow expansion of maxillary arch in case of posterior crossbite. Very good, Walter Coffin. Now let's skip the design considerations and also try identifying the spring design. Again, you can see so many loops here, almost 2 helical loops. 2 loops are clearly evident, and it is resembling one of the alphabets you have in English literature. You have 26 alphabets, right? 26, if I'm not wrong. This is a number which I've forgotten long time ago. So which spring are we talking about? It's also called as double cantilever spring, as you can see, right? So one cantilever here and the other cantilever here. Cantilever is a kind of mechanism where you have support only on one side and the rest of the thing is something like that. You might have seen several cantilever bridges where you have support only on one side. Cantilever FPD designs, which we discussed in prosthodontic section as well. So double cantilever springs or jet springs. So these are used when both labial and lateral movements of incisors are required. They're made of 0.5 mm or 23 gauge hard stainless steel wires, and jet springs are also used for minor rotation corrections and when two or more teeth have to be moved labially. So jet spring, also called as double cantilever springs. Very good. Now try identifying this spring again. Another spring design or configuration. So which spring are we talking about? It's again, as you can see, it's made of very fine stainless steel wire, 0.5 mm or 23 gauge stainless steel wire. Yeah, it's indicated for mesiodistal movement, as you can see, based on the orientation, indicated for mesiodistal movement of teeth, especially for closure of midline diastema. And it is mainly used for teeth in line of arch only. And this is a finger spring. This is one of the first springs which we all fabricate during our undergraduation, if I'm not wrong. Very good. Single cantilever spring, finger spring, excellent. Now let's move on to the next illustration. So try identifying this. Try identifying this particular spring design or spring configuration. So it's used for distal movement of palatally placed canine. So as you can see here, it's engaged to the canine from the palatal aspect for distal movement. And the placement of this loop is very important. It should be in line with the long axis of the tooth and should be perpendicular to the direction of the movement, distal in this particular context. So which device or spring configuration are we talking about? Palatal canine retractor. Very good. Smriti, Payal, well done. So it's used for distal movement of palatally placed canine and for distal movement of premolars as well. The active arm of this retractor contacts the tooth surface at right angles to the desired tooth movement. The helix or coil should be placed as far away from the tooth to provide good range of action or movement, and it is placed on the line through the midpoint of the tooth and in a direction perpendicular to the direction of the movement. The diameter of helix should be 2.5 to 3 mm, and the spring is activated by opening the coil by 2 to 3 mm. Right? Palatal canine retractor. Very good. Now try identifying this spring design or configuration. It again represents or resembles the shape of one of the letters in your English literature. So what spring design are we talking about? So it's used for buccal movement of canines, premolars, as well as molars. As you can see, it's placed from the palatal side and it is being engaged in such a way that it promotes buccal movement. So used for buccal movements of canines, premolars, and molars. Yeah, T-shaped, right? So T spring. Wire used is 0.5 mm or 23 gauge hard stainless steel wire. The spring is made up of T-shaped arm. As you can see, T-shaped arm. So if this particular spring is contacting the premolar, since the premolar surface on the lingual aspect is almost straight without any slope, there won't be much intrusion. But if this same T-spring is engaged to canine, because of the slope, there can be even intrusion. So that's one of the additional points mentioned in this particular textbook. Okay, Sridhar Prem Kumar, textbook of Orthodontics. Yeah, very good. So obviously to address crossbite, these are used for engaging movement of canines, premolars, and molars in a buccal direction. T-spring. Now try identifying this appliance. This is something which I haven't seen personally during my undergraduate days. So can you identify this specific design? So these are categorized under auxiliary springs, right? So these are made of stainless steel wire 0.35 to 0.4 mm, even finer diameter of the stainless steel wire, used in extreme proclination of incisors for lingual movement, to achieve lingual movement, right? Okay, in case of extreme proclination of incisors, it can also be used to correct single tooth proclination. And these are, as Payal rightly mentioned, very good, Payal. No, this is not robot retractor, Smriti. I really appreciate your enthusiasm. We'll get back to robot retractor very soon, in few moments from now. So as Payal rightly mentioned, yeah, high labial bow, very good. So apron spring, good, excellent, apron springs. So do make a note of this point, right? So apron springs, so spring design, apron springs are used with high labial bow, as Uttama rightly mentioned. Apron springs constitute the active component. Apron springs are attached to base arch by winding a few turns in vertical arms and then 2 or 3 turns in horizontal arms, right? So as you can see here, they're being wound on horizontal as well as vertical arms. Apron springs are bent into shape according to number of teeth that have to be moved lingually. In this case, only centrals. So you have this particular design. If all anterior teeth have to be moved lingually up to 4 teeth, yeah, you can modify the shape of this particular spring. Very good. Apron springs, keep it up. Now, try identifying this particular design. So obviously it seems like a labial bow. So what design are we talking about and what is it used for? So as you know, we have this short labial bow and long labial bow, but the labial bow is not continuous in this particular context. It is broken, and then it is being extended onto the distal aspect of the contralateral or the opposing central incisors on both sides. So which labial bow design are we talking about in this particular instance? I know you all love robot retractor. We'll get back to that very soon. So very good. So in case of split labial bows, they can be used for retraction. And this specific design is used for closure of midline diastema. As you can see, we're trying to encompass the opposing or the other side central incisor in an attempt to close. Yeah, these are active components. In an attempt, you have this U-loop bend here, which is bent in order to activate this device. Those who used removable appliances with U-loop configuration, you know how the removable appliance is activated, right? So in this specific design, split labial bow for midline diastema closure, the free ends of labial bow cross over each other, as you can see in this particular illustration. The free end of one bow crosses the opposite central incisor and is hooked on the distal aspect of central incisor and vice versa, right? So drawback of this is it's useful only for closure of midline diastema, but I see that as an indication, and not effective in overjet correction. Activation is by closure of the loop by 1 mm. So you have this U loop here. When it is closed by 1 mm, so force is generated, right? Very good. Split labial bow for midline diastema closure. Wonderful. Now, let's see how many of you are going to answer this right. So you can see again, it's an appliance. I'm not going to name it, but observe the labial bow here. Again, you can see a U bend, and also you can see the labial bow, which is not curved or in arch shape, but it is conforming to the labial anatomy of anterior teeth, all the anterior teeth. So which labial bow configuration are we talking about? So this bow is adapted to the contours of labial surface of individual teeth. The labial bow is placed in the middle third, even though it's not visible here. And the appliance should be passive. This offers good retention on proclined upper incisors, but it is less satisfactory on upright teeth. It's made of 0.7 mm stainless steel wire or 21 gauge stainless steel, used to fabricate the fitted labial bow, as you all rightly mentioned. So this is a fitted, as it is fitting the labial aspects of the teeth, middle third. It's called as fitted labial bow. It's used as the retention appliance after active orthodontic movement. Hence, loops are not to be activated. Adjustments can be made for proper fit of the appliance. So Even though we say that these are active appliances, but this is not activated as it is used after completion of orthodontic treatment for sake of retention. So it's used as a retention appliance after orthodontic treatment. Keep that in mind, right? Very good. Fitted label bow. Now, let's see how many of you are going to answer it, right? You have been talking about this appliance for the past few minutes. So which appliance configuration are we talking about in this particular context? Arshi, we'll get back to that appliance. Okay, just hold on. I really appreciate your enthusiasm. We'll get back to that appliance name and we'll also review some literature a bit later. But in that particular appliance, we focused only on the label bow configuration, right? We'll get back to that as well. So Robert. I don't know what's your relation with Robert, but anyways, I'm sure it's a very, very friendly relation. And you all rightly identified it as a Roberts retractor. So it was designed by G.H. Roberts, which is a flexible bow made of 0.5 mm diameter or 23 gauge stainless steel wire, used for retraction of 4 incisors. And when overjet is greater than 4 mm, so 4, I think Robert loves the number 4. So used for retraction of 4 incisors, and when the overjet is greater than 4 mm, do make a note of this point. Right, and rest of the things, activation of 3 mm is sufficient. So description of the device or the appliance, will skip that part. Yeah, very good. Roberts retractor. Now let's see how many of you are going to identify this complex shaped appliance design. Does it resemble any letter to you? M-shaped letter? Let's see how many of you are able to correlate. So it is also termed as, so you can find a labial bow, but it is being crisscrossed and extended, right? So it's called as extended labial bow. So Mills retractor, as Sai Rajat first and rightly answered, also termed as extended labial bow, made of 0.7 mm or 21 gauge hard stainless steel wire. It's an alternative to Roberts retractor used for reduction of large overjet and also for alignment of irregular incisors. It is flexible as the labial bow incorporates extensive loops. It's activated by compressing the loops and bending the bow palatally without inflicting trauma to mucosa. The main disadvantage of this retractor are it is less comfortable to the patient and the design is complex. Yeah, Mills retractor, M-shape, maybe you can see M-shape here. Okay, see. Yeah, it's all up to your visualization and imagination. Mills retractor, very good. So we're coming to the end of the session. So try identifying this particular appliance design. I can give you a hint. It's used to prevent or, I can say prevention of labial proclination of anteriors and also used for allowing posterior eruption of teeth, thus enabling correction of open bite. So what do you say? Overbite, posterior eruption can be permitted, open bite can be addressed. So which appliance configuration are we talking about? You can see a bite plane. Yes, definitely it's a bite plane. So it's a modification of bite plane where the modified area is extending onto the incisal edges, right? So you can see the acrylic extending onto the incisal edges. So what modification are we talking about? And what is this called as? The appliance name starts with the letter S. Yes. So which appliance configuration are we talking about? It's a bite plate, as you all rightly mentioned. It's a particular design of a bite plate, which prevents incisor movement and transmits part of forces of occlusion to long axis of incisor teeth. Yeah, anterior bite plane with capping igneous, SWED type. SWED appliance, very good. SWED type, acrylic bite plate, as you all rightly mentioned. Very good. So just make a note of this incisal edge capping, sweat appliance. Now try identifying this appliance. Arshi has been very enthusiastic. Now you can answer. Let's see how many of you are going to get it right. And it's considered as dental crutch. You know, crutches which are used by physically challenged individuals. So this appliance is considered as a dental crutch. So one of the most commonly used appliances. So many modifications can be done. Versatility, and as I said, most commonly used and is considered as a dental crutch. Crutch. So what's this appliance? Let's see how many of you are going to get it right. So it's one of the most basic type of removable appliance. It is most useful removable appliance used by dental surgeons, used for preventive, interceptive, and limited corrective orthodontics. It's also called dental crutch. The basic appliance consists of three parts. As you can see, the labial bow, and also you can see the base plate and the clasps on molars for retention. So labial bow, base plate, and clasps completes this very simplistic design of appliance. And as you all finally rightly answered, Hollis appliance is right answer. Right, so there are so many indications, advantages. We'll skip that part, and let's see how many of you are going to answer this right. So identify this removable appliance. The final one before the homework question. So identify. You can see a palatal plate. There seems to be a separation or split in this palatal plate. I've given you the name. And also you can see a screw which is attached, right? So identify this appliance. As I said, the palatal plate is split. So this is split palatal removable appliance, which is used in cleft palate cases. And what you're finding here is the expansion screw. Very good. So jack screw type expansion screw is used for gradually opening up to spread the buccal segments, used in case of cleft palate, right? So consider this very, very important. In fact, there is some interesting information regarding these jack screws, also called as Schwartz appliance, as some of you rightly mentioned. Oh, yeah, let me review that information. So expansion screws, they are active components of removable orthodontic appliances. So this expansion screw again is considered as an active component because it helps in creating or generating forces upon activation. So expansion screws are mainly used in maxillary arch, and these have been tried in mandibular, but with little or no result. Appliances that incorporate screws are called Schwartz appliance or plate. An orthodontic screw has its two ends threaded in opposite directions. When they're open, the metal ends move apart. The screw is activated by opening the screw. For each activation, so this is something which I wanted to highlight. So we activate the screw by turning to 1/4 quarter. So 1/4 turn of the screw. So you'll not turn the screw 360 degrees, only 1/4 turn. 360 by 4, 90 degrees, right? So 1/4 turn of the screw will separate the base plate by 0.2 mm, which is equal to the thickness of your periodontal ligament. So you're trying to utilize that PDL space by activating the screw through 1/4 turn, right? So this is something which is very, very important to make a note of. So 1/4 turn of the screw will separate the base plate by 2.2 mm. So why 0.2 mm? Because it's almost equivalent to the width of a periodontal ligament. The screw is activated by a 1/4 turn every week, right? So as you all rightly mentioned, split palate removable appliance used in cleft palate cases. Yeah, constricted maxillary arch and cleft palate. Very good. Jack screw. Well done. Now, observe this homework question. So these are nothing but modifications of your Adams screw, universal Adams clasp, universal clasp, or modified arrowhead clasp. So identify these modifications. So that's your homework question. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 modifications in this particular illustration, and each one has a specific indication. So try identifying the names of these modifications of your Adams clasp, also called as modified arrowhead or universal clasp, and their specific indications, and get back to mail for key and analysis from our side. So this concludes our image-based discussion from removable appliances of orthodontic subject. I thought we would be taking even more time, but I think we completed or concluded this in less than 40 minutes. So I hope it's clear. And in the process, you identified the images very fast, and I really appreciate your enthusiasm. Also, now that we have reviewed some relevant literature, I hope that gives you additional inputs on to even identifying these images in a better way. And I hope you enjoyed the session. So ultimately, that's what matters. If we are not enjoying the process, we cannot sustain it. And without sustaining it, we cannot achieve desired results. Okay? So I really appreciate your active participation, enthusiasm. Feel free to get back through mail for any assistance or guidance from our side 24/7. And your feedback on sessions is always welcome. And if you're liking these sessions, you can show your support by liking these videos, by sharing these videos. I usually never ask to do so, because once you like it, once you enjoy the process, you'll automatically keep liking the videos and share the videos. But I think sometimes we all need a reminder. So this is just a reminder that if you're enjoying these videos, enjoying these discussions, your feedback, positive or negative, is always welcome. And yes, do like our videos, share them, and of course, do subscribe as well. In fact, we crossed 85,000 subscribers very recently, and we are on our way to reach 1 lakh mark maybe very soon this year. So let's see how it goes. The reason I'm talking about numbers is opinions are stupid, numbers are sacred. My guru, Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan, has mentioned this in one of his speeches of Lok Sabha Party, right? Yeah. So based on the feedback, I'll just go through your comments. And if you're loving this format, we'll try to incorporate rest of the image-based discussions in similar format. We'll try to incorporate as many images as possible, not extending the session by more than 40 to 45 minutes. 20 or 25 minutes is ideal, or 15 to 20 minutes would be ideal. But I know exam is approaching. You want more, as Welton has been asking, more in less time. We all want more. Right? We'll try doing that as well. So love you all. Good night. Have a fantastic good night sleep. I'll see you again. So today, as I said, is last week, last session of this week. Do you want me to continue these live sessions tomorrow and day after tomorrow as well? It's up to you. Sidra has already been answering the questions. Very good, Arshi and Sidra, but please don't leak the answers. Don't make us lazy. Sidra, you're most welcome. Welton, Uttama, Sai Rajat, I really appreciate your feedback. Sai Rajat, today's session was so competitive, like, damn. I can really feel the fire. Arshi, you're most welcome. I really appreciate your feedback, Arshi. Madhuri, that's really wonderful to hear, Madhuri. Ritu, you always like all our videos without fail. Thank you, Ritu. It really means a lot. Thank you so much. Yes, Payal, good night. Vizu, good night. Welton, what's happening? What did Avinash say? Why did Avinash retract his messages? Was it bad? It's okay. What's actually happening there? Anyways. You want me to conduct sessions tomorrow and day after tomorrow as well? Jane, amazing session, sir. Hats off. You're welcome, guys. This feedback really means a lot. Yeah, we'll definitely consider taking up live discussions even on Saturday and Sunday, for sure. Manav, hi sir, remember me? Of course, Manav. How can I forget you? That's the reason why the moment you answer, I could remember you, and hence I said hi to you. Avinash has asked, why am I single? That's an amazing topic, Avinash or Avinsh. Why you are single? Because you are in medical profession. Obviously, it's understood that you're going to settle late. It's understood that you're going to earn late. And it's also understood that given the experience we all have, it's difficult to earn the right amount of money. So given the challenges the medical personnel, including dentists, are facing, it's obviously understood like why most of us are single till a particular age, until and unless we fell in love with a wonderful person who can understand our intent, not content, who can understand our intent and are willing to travel with us, regardless of our economic or financial status. And I was lucky to be one among them. So Soumya and myself, my wife Soumya and myself, we fell in love in third BDS, and we got married. Like when I was in my post-graduation second year. At that time, I was obviously in school, dental school. I was earning nothing. I don't know what she saw in me, but she loved, and we both loved each other. So if you find someone who can really understand and are willing to travel with you, regardless of your bank balance, you can consider them, him or her, as the right person for you. So Avinsh, don't worry, you'll have your time. Everyone will have their time. By the way, I mean, this is not the forum to fix matches, but if you find any potential, of course, you can make use of it. Manav, yes, of course, I remember all my students. Without faith. You're welcome, Manav. Welton has a suggestion. Start playing pub. I would not recommend you to do so. No, do not have an amazing virtual life. The real life is very much amazing, provided you are conscious in experiencing it. No, no to all online games. If you want, you can play offline. Sai Rajat, yes. Even I'm glad we made it, because not many actually make it as a couple. Crush relationships, these are quite common, but trying to travel as a couple is very rare. In fact, very challenging. Given the circumstances we're all in, I definitely consider myself lucky. And I wish you all the best, not just for your PG preparation, also to Avinsh and for others who are not yet married. Please be patient. Just focus on what you have to do now. You'll find a loving partner, for sure. Just keep looking. Yeah, bye. Good night. I think we shifted from motivation lessons to love lessons, but it's okay.